What's up, SE Nation? Welcome back to another AWS video. So yeah, I say AWS. And the goal was for me to talk about databases like RDS, Relational Database Service. And the more I tried to understand AWS, the more I figured I don't know anything about databases to begin with, other than they're kind of an Excel spreadsheet. So I took a step back to learn a little bit more about databases. Now, I mentioned in the last video I created, which was a few weeks ago now, was the fact that it is difficult, right? It is difficult to learn. There is a struggle. But in my humble opinion, if there wasn't a struggle, the struggle will catapult us forward. If anyone's watched Armageddon, which is based on a real story, part of the trip to the asteroid, spoiler alert by the way, is to actually go past the moon and catapult their way because of the gravity pulling the...
You'll then use lunar gravity and burn your thrusters, slingshotting you around the moon, coming up behind the asteroid.
Rockets down. Now, the gravity in this case is actually the struggle that we're trying to learn. And then through that struggle, we'll push forward and understand it better. So I'm probably not going to do a video every week, because I did it for a few weeks and then I realized it seems that the goal was to put out a video and not to learn. And my goal is to learn, and I'm using the videos as a way for me to solidify my learning. I talked to a guest this week, or I don't know when, a couple weeks. This week, when I'm recording this video, I talked to him this week. So I don't know when it will be published, before or after, but I'll leave a link. If it's published, I'll leave a link in the description below. And we talked about the Feynman technique, which is basically studying and then teaching something to make sure that you understand it and then find the gaps and learn these. And that's my goal. My goal is to find the gaps. My goal is to learn. My goal isn't to publish a video. I'm publishing a video as a way for me to learn. And hopefully it'll be helpful to you at the same time. So I took a step back and decided to learn about databases. Now, there's so much to learn about databases. A couple of things that I did was I went on Cloud Guru and I found a course that's all about databases. And this course was at Cloud Guru Database Essentials. Is it the best course? No. It is very shallow. I actually have a video of me doing one of the labs, but it's good in terms of someone who's never done anything with databases to actually learn. So there's MongoDB, there's Couchbase, which I've done. I don't know if I'm going to keep doing the rest, but the reason these are useful is because if you go to AWS and sign in and you go into RDS, which is the relational database section of AWS, and you create a database, you can see there's Aurora, which are the Amazon proprietary databases, MySQL, Oracle, Postgres, MariaDB. And if you go here, you'll see that there's at least Postgres, there's MySQL, there's MariaDB, so which are the three that I haven't done yet. So there are some overlap in terms of the learning. The course, the AWS course that's available on Cloud Guru, the associate. Again, this is not a marketing explanation for Cloud Guru, but if you go down to the relational database, the first few things, they updated it since the last time I watched, they're talking about how to use it through AWS. And there's always the question, I guess the big question when it comes to databases, it's which one do you pick and why? And these are the things that I'm trying to figure out, because there's relational databases here, but also in the same thing, they were talking about MongoDB and DynamoDB, which I believe is not a relational database. And what's the difference between a relational database and not a relational database? These are the things that I've been trying to tackle last few weeks, and this is what I understand, and trying to capture the gaps of my understanding. And there's a lot of gaps, I have to admit. I mentioned earlier, databases are like tables. So imagine having data. Let's say I'm going to be using Airbnb as an example, or a website like Airbnb, because I don't know how Airbnb works particularly or specifically. So the examples that I provide here are just my observations, my ideas, my thoughts, and not necessarily how it works. But when you go to Airbnb, there's a bunch of houses. That's nice. So you can sign up, and when you sign up, that's a piece of data that you're getting. So let's say I signed up today. What will happen is Airbnb website. So we have Airbnb. I used to live in Lebanon, and whenever we had a knockoff, like instead of Adidas, it'll be Adidas. So this is Airbnb, because this is a knockoff website. This is not actually Airbnb and how it works. I don't want you to think that it is. But let's say I signed up. So now you have Ramzi Marjaba as information. Now, every time someone signs up, you're going to have a name that's signing up. If you didn't have a table or any way to look them up or anything like that, it will just be a bunch of data that means nothing to anybody. It's just going to be miserable. So what databases are is basically a way to manage all the data. That's good. Yeah, I'll use that. And when we talk about relational databases, I actually see them as tables. And you saw here, let's go back to Airbnb for a second, not the real one. You can Airbnb your home, you can sign up as a guest, right? So you can be a guest, right? Guest, or you can be a host. Each one of these is a table. So when you sign up as a guest, you're gonna have like generally speaking, every database has an ID here. So guest ID, you would have the name, right? Current address, where they live, and credit card information. On the flip side, you have hosts, right? Again, you'd have host ID, name, whatever information you want to get. Also, banking information, so where they want to get paid. So now you have two tables right here. Where does it become relational? Let's use this as an example. Now the host, there's also like properties, right? Well, I don't know why I'm asking you, right? There's no one on the other side, and that's where you learn also. Like, I should not be saying, when I'm talking to a video or in front of people because they may not know. Anyways, properties. That could be another database or another table within the database. You have property ID, and now you also have host ID. So now you're relating this table over here. You will have address, etc. And now you can also have booking, for example, a booking table. I shouldn't be saying right, see, I'm learning. So here you'd have the property ID. So I just related this table. You choose another color. So I related this table to this table. I'm not done. The guest who booked it. You may have multiple guests, but each booking can have its own entry, because you're going to have booking ID here and host ID. Or you don't even need host ID, because this is related to this here is related to this. You also have guests related to this. So now all the tables are relational together. Now we talked about a bunch earlier. Right? We talked about the fact that there are MongoDB. This is not relational. Couchbase, Postgres, MySQL, MariaDB. Why would you pick one over the other? Well, you pick one over the other because of performance, because of architecture, because the sales team did a great job selling one over another. For example, MongoDB seems to be free, and they sell services on top of it. So although if you do your research, you might hear bad things about a specific MongoDB. When I go on Reddit and do a bit of research, people complain about it. People complain like Base uses MongoDB and they're unstable, and they're blaming MongoDB. Why do people use it? A couple of different things. This is where the selling process is actually very helpful. MongoDB is free, so people are free to use it. People are free to learn it. People know how to use it, even though it might not be very stable. People get attached to it and start using it more and more, and then all of a sudden it's being used in an enterprise environment for free. And instead of selling the software, MongoDB, they would sell the services. And let's look at Couchbase, for example. Couchbase is another database thing. There's a free trial somewhere. I thought I saw it. So there's a free view pricing details. A lot of information here. Oh, try free up there. And you get, what was it, 30 days, I believe. Yeah, try Capella Core for 30 days. That's another way of doing it. That's a freemium, product-led model. The focus today, we talked about the relational databases. There's also the NoSQL, as it's called, which are the types like MongoDB or Couchbase. There's a bunch of other things. There's a bunch of ways of doing it. There you can look at key value database, which is basically two rows with 2 columns. Like there's a key value, like a key and then a value. There's also wide column, no schema, which is like MongoDB, where it saves, what's it called? Documents that look like JSON, and I think they are JSON. Couchbase uses the same methodology as AWS, like in terms of buckets. They talk about buckets a lot. I learned that from the Cloud Guru hands-on labs, which if you go here, Postgres, SQL, they tell you to install Postgres, create database. The great thing about this, again, I'm not trying to advertise it. I'm not trying not to advertise it either. It's been useful. Like the course is not great, but the thing about the labs is the fact that everything is powered by some form of cloud. So you're not installing Postgres on your computer. When you launch the lab, it actually creates a VM for you somewhere, most likely AWS or GCP or something. They give you the IP addresses, so you're not installing everything on your computer. You're just installing it here, and that's how I've been able to learn. Here's a couple of things that I've learned based on the differences between relational and NoSQL. Relational, you kind of need to know exactly what you want to do before you get started. These tables that I showed earlier, you're designing them before you get started. So you have to know exactly what you want and what to look like, and it's very organized. So if you're looking for something organized, then relational seems to be the way to go. The downside of that, it seems that the scalability of relational databases is harder to expand, because you might have a lot of tables and you're going to have to relate all of them together somehow, some way, which makes it harder, as far as I understand. If anyone listening to this knows more than I do, please jump in the comments and let me know. On the other hand, when you talk about NoSQL, which is another way of saying no relation, I guess no relational, you can have tables, or they're not tables, they're documents, but the same way here we had the tables here, you can have one for the guests. You have guest name, address, credit card. The next guest doesn't have to have all this tables or all this information. So it makes it a little bit less organized, but it makes it more flexible. All these things, these are the things that affect how people decide which database they should take, which database they should use, and how to pick it. For the next video, I might be doing a little bit more hands-on. I'm going to be doing more projects, hopefully. At least that's the plan. When time permits, between work, VDSEs, and the family. So that's it for me for today. I hope this was useful. I hope this wasn't just a rant, although it could be rant-ish. But yeah, that's it for me for today. I'll see you guys later. Peace out.